So hi, Ale. Well, thanks for your time today. We wanted to speak about the guest influencing loop and why it matters, actually. I mean, there's many things out there. We talk about funnel, we talk about influencing loops. What is the difference or why do they matter? I mean, if you maybe start with your typical sales funnel you're referring to, um, why do we use it?
Yeah, hi Marcus. So, well, marketing funnel, sales funnel is exactly the same thing, but I usually wanted to start with this because it's what eventually we are mostly familiar with, right? So the right and the classic marketing or sales funnel, where you have the classic funnel visualization, meaning on top of the awareness and then interest, the decision, and then action. These are usually the four stage of a marketing funnel, also called AIDA. Well, that's actually more likely the most common way of intending a marketing funnel. The new, let's say the new, not necessarily way, but the new concept of funnel is not necessarily defined by the AIDA model, so awareness, interest, decision, and action, but likely simply top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel. Well, top of the funnel is more likely awareness and eventually interest. And then you start getting into the middle of the funnel, meaning when people are likely going to plan a trip to your hotel, to your destination, and therefore considering hotel as an option. And then finally the booking stage, which ultimately comes, of course, either days or weeks after the initiation of the marketing funnel. And that's pretty much it. However, you and I, Marcus, wanted to highlight a sort of different way, also visually speaking, a different way of representing a marketing funnel, which is what we came up calling the guest influencing loop, right?
Correct. Yeah, I think it's an important distinction here because when we talk about the funnel, I mean something comes on top and goes down on the bottom, and when we talk about visually about a loop, it's a circle. And the reason why I think we bring this up is because it just opens up a whole lot of different ideas and ways how we engage with customers, how we do marketing in general. And if you think about a loop, it's much more cohesive with our actions because it's just not just top of the funnel getting new customers and then you get the customers, but you want to keep them. And there's many opportunities along the entire influence loop, which we can actually influence. That's why we call it influence loop, right? So I'm not sure. I mean, we start at the stimulus, right? The stimulus is pretty much the same as what you called awareness in the funnel.
Mm-hmm.
Or how would you see, where would you see the difference? I mean, maybe if we start with the first couple there, stimulus, dreaming, consideration, evaluation, and look back at our contrast with our funnel, where do we see the advantage here to break it down into further steps?
Well, first of all, stimulus and dreaming is what in the previous slides and the classic funnel visualization is represented by the awareness. And by the way, this is something probably not new in the sense that we know the awareness phase. But my question is, how do actually, or so let's put it this way, who actually market their hotels in the awareness phase? And my answer is pretty straightforward. Actually, barely someone actually does that, in the sense that it's not necessarily easy, and is not necessarily how can I say easy to understand, and more importantly, how beneficial it can be to actually start marketing our hotels, any businesses, but we're talking about hotels, marketing our hotels at a very top stage of the funnel, right? So the TOFU, meaning stimulus and dreaming. And then, of course, consideration and evaluation is also what we call planning, let's put it this way, but it's essentially when people start actively looking for hotels and considering and planning their stay at hotels. That is where we compete with each other a lot. And not only with each other, but with the OTAs, meaning without distribution channels, because, of course, that is where it's the difference between the latent or unexpressed demand and expressed demand. Express is essentially when people start actively looking for hotels, like going to Google and search hotels plus destination or specifically long tail keyword. But that is the, let's say, the continuing of the funnel and finally get to the booking stage. Now, my question back to you, and it's the reason why we're calling guest influencing loop, because as opposite to the funnel, which is just a funnel and then has a sort of ending point, which is the booking part. Here we start again, which is the pre-stay, stay, and advocacy and loyalty, to start again essentially the loop. So it's not necessarily something that has a starting point and an ending point, but it keeps going as a sort of loop or circle. And of course, after the booking, there is a pre-stay, and then the stay, and then probably also the post-stay. That is also a good way and a good stage of doing marketing to restart the loop, right?
Yeah. I think, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, well, obviously this is nothing new, and these things have been out there for ages now. However, I think what you're saying, and this is, I think this is also important, is also always the question of how do we engage potential customers at what stage, and what tools do we use, or mechanism or channels we do. And that's the benefit of that loop, because there's a different message, there's different content, and there's different media which we can use for each step of the way. And we have different knowledge about the customer, potential customer, at each step of the way. And I think it's coming back to data, and this is what we're talking about in other sessions. And I think that's what makes it interesting. And there we see the real power and value to really basically have this individual steps. To give you an example now, when I look at evaluation, right, that stage will be obviously just prior to the booking stage. And there is obviously important when we relate this to hotel bookings. I would go to maybe an OTA, I would go to a meta search site, I would compare the best pricing and all this kind of stuff. And it's kind of like the comparability which I'm going through before I make that booking. And then the booking would be the point of purchase, which could be at an OTA, but could be at a travel agency, or could be anywhere. And I think there's different tools and activities we want to do from a hotel perspective to influence all these different elements. And that's the same for the pre-stay and all this upselling tools you might have available to you. And then during the stay, you create a fantastic customer experience. You have all the guest data, you have the preferences, you might have a CRM tool which you can use to then engage the customer in future journeys and so on. And I think it's all related to each other. And I think that's why it's important to speak about the influencer loop. Now, I forgot why what your question was to me, but I see already a lot of different opportunities here, looking in a loop versus just a funnel, how to use certain tools and create respective or relevant content. And the most difficult part is, I think, the timing. When do you communicate to somebody, right? So it's about the relevant content, the relevant timing, to really ensure that you can influence your customer. And I think therefore the loop works much better for me, at least.
That's right. Also because when we talk about marketing for hotels, I can say, I mean, there is not just specific statistics about it, but I can say that on average 90, even 95% of the times, the marketing happens only when it comes to the consideration and evaluation part up until the booking part. All right. So essentially the very last part of, again, what we saw before, the funnel. And that's why the funnel with the visual representation, as we saw before, is pretty much fine. But then there is a huge potential also in the pre-stay. Actually, I've seen very, very few hotels doing marketing in the pre-stay. But the concept of the pre-stay, meaning doing marketing after having acquired the customer, meaning after the booking stage, is for a pretty much a statistical number, which says that is 3 times easier to acquire a customer that was already a customer rather than acquire a new customer. And therefore, essentially, if you want to mention a metric, is the classic lifetime value. I mean, we all know about it, but we barely work with it. We're not much used to it. And that's exactly why the guest influencing loop brings up again the lifetime value of a customer, because we are essentially trying to reacquire that same customer over and over again. But it starts already even before the arrival, or also between the booking and the arrival, which means the pre-stay, which may be, I mean, different way of acquiring of acquiring or doing marketing is, for example, trying to do upsells or trying to upsell more stuff, or in the post days, for example, trying to have them advocate our hotel to their peers, or to their friends, or to their family, not just leave a review. The review, yes, of course, is important, but it's just a tiny little part. And then again, CRM, advocacy, loyalty, and start again with the stimulus part. There is always the stimulus part. You know me, and I always mention I love the top of the funnel, which is more likely related to the stimulus and dreaming part, because that is where, you know, marketers usually have it's like a Luna Park in there, you know, right? And this is that you really about it. And I think we're going to talk a lot about the stimulus and dreaming phases very soon.
I think I'm absolutely excited. I mean, I think we should be going into each of the steps or the opportunities we have available and the data we have available from potential customers at each phase, and what are the tools and how can we maximize maybe the marketing activities in each stage. So it would be great having these conversations and exploring the influencing loop and what we can do about it.